Jan Guskowski, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, good. They're on mute in the room, I assume.
It, uh, where is it? Yeah, they appear to be.
I just don't wanna.
Hi, John and John.
But I have to keep it a meadow, so I've got.
Hi.
So we'll just give it another
Yeah, we have two people.
couple minutes, wait on John Dusa and Andy to come.
Love to do that.
We're still waiting on Andy. So we decided to give him one more minute.
Aaron, you got my notes on the map. Okay,
All right, Mr. Vice Chair.
okay, I don't know what the official kickoff on these meetings are. I'm Bob Reinhardt, I'm the vice chair of the commission. Carol Snow is not here, so she asked me to chair tonight's meeting. President, myself, Bob O'Connor, John Hughes, John Morgan's online, and we were expecting one more person. We have quite a few commissioners who are out, so for this meeting, either to travel somewhere, hurt themselves, and is unable to attend. So we'll just keep it tight the way it is. The
Can-
Jen-
I just want to make sure, because our microphone is here, that when.
Got it, all right,
We gotta
Yeah.
enunciate, just because our captions aren't quite picking up
okay,
what you're
I'll look
saying.
that way then. Y'all can hear me?
Okay, good.
It's good. Thank you.
Yes,
So,
yes, Bob.
tonight's agenda is primarily the continuing work of the plan of conservation and development. So first we're gonna do is we have John Guskowski, who's a consultant that's been working with us in developing this. We've gone through a number of iterations on the policies, strategies and actions, and he's taken the last version of that. And we're just gonna go through that a little bit and start laying out the next steps in developing the plan. After that, we have the presentation. Correct, I don't know your last name. Brady. Brady, okay. So Mr. Brady will provide a presentation on a proposal for managing trees, and hopefully if you have a chance, you'll see that the idea of protecting the trees is already built into some of the policies and actions we have, but I think it's great if we can we have to build all this stuff out, more words and details, so help is always appreciated, facilitated. But we want to go with John first, just to set the stage there, and then we have a few receipts and pending actions. I think we'll just be pushed forward into the next meeting. Did I do that right?
Sounds good.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good to see you all again. So yeah, as the chair said, we've been going through some reorganization of the structure of the plan, and instead of sort of structuring things around kind of the artificial categories of built environment, natural environment, through a lot of work of Bob and Carol and John and several others. We have, I think, a pretty good framework of basically 7 policies for Madison as part of the plan of conservation and development that sort of cross-cut issues of built environment, natural environment, and human environment. Where we were, I believe, where you guys were in January, you had a sort of a long working session, and there was a markup. And I'll let me share my top screen. Do you see a side-by-side Word document? I don't think necessarily going to be able to make this out, but I wanted to show you basically what had been done. So I'll put this in front. So basically, Carol and Bob primarily had sort of re-envisioned this framework of policies and recommendations, or policies and implementation strategies, based on these 7 policies. And we basically went through sort of a restructuring, rewording process. And so you can see over in the corner, there's a lot of markup, comments, and in talking with, and so this was gone through at your January meeting, as well as I think offline by several of the commissioners collaborated on this markup version. And what I have done in the last couple of days is basically seek to kind of vet these, try to reach some kind of unified position, and kind of an agreed to final, well, tentatively final draft. I will say, not all of the edits were accepted. A great deal, I would say probably the majority of them were. A lot of things were rephrased to clarify, as well as to, I think explain a little bit that, there was some concern about when we talked about open space property acquisition, we're not talking about, eminent domain. We're not talking about, the town bigfooting private developers. We put a, clarification that we're talking about collaborations, projects of mutual benefit, that sort of thing. Some of the biggest sort of changes or recommended changes I would note, there was some question about economic development in North Madison. And I know one of the commenters had some concerns about the appropriateness of development. And with that as an example, what I tried to do was be sensitive and cognizant to the process of public input and particularly stakeholder input that we'd received over the last year or so. And so trying to respect the editorial wishes of our most involved commissioners, but also respect the fact that one opinion doesn't necessarily sort of carry the day in all cases. And so I tried to nod to some of those concerns, and I'll note specifically, this is an example. This is policy F, promote expansion of commercial and retail businesses that are appropriate in town. There was a long discussion about, again, the appropriateness of development around North Madison Circle. Basically, these are wordsmiths. So instead of establishment of small businesses, I added small, well-designed businesses outside of the downtown village district, including the immediate vicinity around North Madison Circle, to make sure that what we were talking about is not a sprawling second town center, but recognizing that there is some limited economic development potential, and as we've heard through stakeholder positions. I don't mean to harp on that one particularly, but that's sort of an example of how I tried to balance commissioner input, wordsmithing, stakeholder input, and basically the continuation of the vision that we've sort of agreed to. So for people who are interested in sort of plowing through the messiness, Aaron, did you distribute the markup?
Yes.
Okay, so people can sort of plow through and see.
Everybody's got it.
So I every comment that was made was,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Printed copies.
We can share it also electronically, and that may be easier to read for you guys, because the markup can be messy in print. But ultimately what we ended up with is what I would propose, this February draft of the recommended policies and implementation strategies, the clean version, basically, clearing all the comments, accepting changes, and so on, doing the wordsmithing. And so what I would propose, because I think, this is where the rubber meets the road in terms of what the plan is going to be, the to-do list of the plan. So I think we're in a place of fairly complete. We have, some narrative to fill in, objective narrative and some maps to finish up. But I think the meat of the plan is basically in place. We would want to give you guys opportunity to ask questions this evening, but I would propose, in terms of moving this forward, that we sort of compile the full draft plan over the next 2-3 weeks. So this, the policies and implementation would go to the back, and we would add an implementation table that Aaron has been sort of leading the charge on assembling. And then look for the March meeting, February, the first meeting in March, to basically, ideally, accept this as the draft, as the formal draft of the POCD, and then do the statutory referral process, which is a 65-day referral process. It has to go to the state OPM, it has to go to the town clerk, it goes, I believe, to the town council. It obviously goes in the paper, it's posted to the website. And with that 65 days, that would put us basically at your second meeting, your full planning and zoning meeting of May, where we would have sort of the formal public hearing on discussion and possibly adoption of the POCD. So that's the short version. It wasn't very short. But I'm happy to answer specific questions that people have about or the process.
So
John,
just,
okay,
go ahead.
2 questions
Okay.
too. So after John Morgan, I don't know who raised their hand first, but John Morgan.
John, Just two things. Number one, thanks on the Route 8079. I think that's a big improvement
Yes.
from where we were, and it solves that matter in my
Okay.
mind. And secondly, on the section on affordable housing, that's come a long way too, from the first version. And what's there now makes a lot of sense, and it's very clear, and I see you fixed a couple things that I questioned, so thanks.
So just to put that on screen, there was some restructuring of the affordable housing plans, where there were some very specific recommendations about objective tasks to be done, doing a baseline analysis and that sort of thing. I grouped those under a single recommended strategy, and then flowed the other recommendations from them. So establish the baseline, look at a suite of programs, and then implementing the affordable housing plan. So hopefully it's a little bit more concise.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
It's much better.
So, John, policy A, numbers 2 and 3. My understanding was we were gonna combine those two into one, create a multimodal transportation master plan, taking the bicycle and pedestrian master plan items and moving it up into one to really make it, so we don't lose sight of the bicycle and pedestrian master plan, at any point.
Okay, I can do that. I think I didn't catch that in the comments, or that's not the sense I got.
It wasn't in the comments. It was during one of the discussions we had.
To
Oh,
merge
okay.
2 and 3.
2 and 3.
So I can tell you that at this point, the Bike Ped Committee is moving forward. They do have an RFP for a comprehensive bicycle and pedestrian study for a master plan for the town. So I don't know if it makes sense
maybe
to just leave it at its own
I
then.
think it
Maybe
makes
it's-
sense.
What I
Okay,
could do, oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
What I could do is make reference to the plan, the bike and ped plan that is about to be undertaken, and then maybe talk about wrapping it into a
Yeah,
multimodal transportation plan that includes the bike ped plan in progress or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could even be a sub, like a letter
letter
D,
D. I think
develop
if
and
you can
implement.
Consolidate number 3 into letter D, because it's gonna be a big part of whatever that master plan ends up being, but.
Right.
And it may be first,
Right.
but it has to.
I'm sorry,
all-
which way? Which would have a D? 2D or 3D?
Two,
So,
2D. So hard to do.
yeah, and kind of add the bike,
Just basically
develop
the bike,
and
yeah,
implement a bicycle and pedestrian master plan.
and get rid of 3. But just make sure we capture the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because ideally, A, B, and C, under 3 will be included in this plan, and they are highlighted. I can tell you just now, all those items are highlighted in the RFP under the scope of the project. So
Okay,
that might work.
all right, I'll rephrase that, and then I'll look to take that
And then
out.
John, the other thing that I guess wasn't captured in the notes, but we did discuss was 2C there. I
Yes.
didn't think we wanted to say provide additional parking areas.
But we did not,
did not. It's
So-
part of,
we have more,
We talked about that and the reasons for that. And John, you and I talked about this when
Yeah.
we had our call about,
I think, yeah, I'm sorry, Aaron, can I think maybe what we need to clarify is that this is, we want this to be a park once and walk sort of downtown. And so, we don't want people, jumping in their car, going down, 3 storefronts and trying to park again. We want this to, so you have sufficient parking in a close enough area where people can easily access their destinations.
the way you just said it is perfect, I think.
Yeah,
doesn't-
say it that way.
Doesn't say we need more parking. It's what you said, creating park once and walk
Okay,
downtown. That
Yeah.
actually captures.
sorry I
what-
wasn't here earlier.
right.
and I think we talked about this, the additional parking wasn't, the intention isn't
Right.
to purchase property, cut it, or demolish it and create parking lots, because we do have a lot of
Right, so we
opportunities to
should take it
consolidate
out.
parking and reduce it.
But this allows you to think different. You know, maybe it's easier, better ways to connect some of the parking that's available now,
Yep,
whatever it might be.
Yeah.
and also the town, to utilize those Amtrak.
Maybe,
That was
maybe
kind
the,
of where we were
Yeah,
going
that-
with that,
That's a much better way of
those
saying it.
lots.
so maybe the verb at the beginning might be identify rather than provide.
Agreed.
I'll do that.
I had
And maybe it's not even additional, maybe it's just identified parking areas,
For public parking areas.
public
maybe.
parking area, yeah.
Publicly accessible?
Yeah, let me think about that.
The only thing I'd say is if you say parking, that's all anyone will look for is how to make more parking spots.
Yeah, exactly.
If you say create a park once and walk environment, you will think very different. You will think
Okay.
how to
Yeah.
make that
Bob, I like that too.
And we'll work on final wording.
creative solution.
Yeah, just don't say provide parking spaces or areas or anything. Jeez. Hey, and just back to that policy F1 about the small, well-designed businesses outside of the downtown village district. Can we just end it there? Why do we need to call out North Madison Circle? I mean, we'd want to do that maybe at either end of town, or even though they're even at each end of Boston Post Road. Or maybe there's another place. I mean, would it make sense to just stop the sentence at outside of the downtown village district?
I don't have a problem with that.
I don't either. I mean, I think yeah, it's obviously slightly less specific purposely. And that, yeah, I don't have a real problem with that.
Is there any way to turn up the volume so we can hear what you're saying?
We will try.
We can't really hear.
You may need to be closer if the volume doesn't go higher.
Oh,
It's 7:1
Is that any better? Can people hear me all right?
That's as good as it's gonna get, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, John, so first, thanks. This is much better.
Yes.
It's a lot easier to follow. I had a couple of notes I went through. Some are for Erin for help.
Yep.
First one is I could not find the 2005 Bradley Road Vision Study. I Googled and I searched and I looked everywhere.
It may not be online.
Yeah, I thought that it's pretty old. So what I'd like to do is get a copy so we can determine if it's still relevant. It's 18 years old. So I just want to check. So I want to
Yeah,
get, it's not just look at it.
it is, I think it is relevant
Okay,
and
good.
interesting.
But we should get a
Yes,
copy of
I
that
will
and we can
get
reference it.
you a copy.
I have it. I'm looking at it on my computer right now. So I don't know, Aaron.
I must have sent you a digital copy, so I have it. I'll send it out.
I found the complete streets policy. And
Yep.
this is for us. There's a lot of call outs in that for the P and Z to do. There's a lot of
Planning-wise.
actions in there for the planning and zoning.
Yes, which
don't
is
know.
why we,
I'd like to know, I thought it'd be beneficial for us to know what we've actually done. Because that's from 2000, I don't know, 18, 16. So that's that's been around a while. Just get an idea of what has been done and what's left to do. It's an official policy. with that.
So, yeah, so that's just as an FYI, part of, I just did a reference. I'm looking, are you looking at the pink?
multimodal.
That's, yeah, it was part of the
Yeah.
statements in the bike ped plan.
It might leave, but I still like to know because it seems to be something that's already established. I just got a copy of it. And there's so many things and it says do this. I like to know what's left to do, so we have a better idea what we need to include.
Okay.
It's that one. I can't find the beach and rec facility master plan.
Oh, that's because it's from 1988.
Yeah, so
I have a scanned copy of that as
are they
well.
making a new one?
That's one of our recommendations.
Okay, good. Let me see the old one. so I can-
It's, the
behind it.
recommendation was to update the.
Yeah, I'd like to see the old one, just so you can see how it came.
Yes.
Then,
Okay.
a couple of things, we can get into later. So I think just in, based on everything this year, policy D number 4, it talks specifically about management of trees along the public way within town properties. We should look for a way, if it's possible, to expand that to consider private land. I don't know what the ramifications, legality, if any of that is, but just, I think that's where we're gonna,
Fran's gonna talk about that.
yeah, I know, you're all gonna drive us there anyway, so I just thought about that, capture that as one thing. Then the the 2016 Coastal Resiliency Plan. I found that, I'm not sure if that had been updated or not.
Nope, we are in the process of, seeking sea grant funding,
Okay.
for an update of that plan.
Yeah, it's
We do
interesting, that's
not,
like the whole. Can I get a copy, can you print me a copy of that?
a paper copy of
Yeah.
it?
Can't read electronics. I just can't, it doesn't stick in my head. I know, it's a limitation, but it's a lot of paper, and if and then the same thing on the,
I might have it.
that's the Southern Connecticut Regional COG multi-year distance hazard mitigation plan.
The Scrog one?
Yeah.
That's on the Scrog's website. It's very, very long.
Is it?
I can print you a specific
Okay. all right, I'll
section
look
of
for that. Okay.
Madison, or I would recommend,
I'll look through it first.
but the 2023
Yeah, I
update
just
is
saw
on
that.
Scrog's, plan. And I can send you the link to that.
Could you send me that link also?
Yeah, I'll just send all
Just-
this
you just
to
don't-
everybody.
Under policy E, number 4, number B, focus on property acquisition. We discussed that to make sure that it
Yes.
was clear that it was not, that it was a tax neutral event.
Yes, so you have a copy that was printed, and John and I, we talked about that today after
good.
it
Yeah.
went out. And we added that language, particularly repetitive loss
Right, but we
properties.
didn't, in the last meeting, we had someone who was talking about getting grant.
I was talking about FEMA.
Yeah.
and Aaron was gonna look into that. You may want to say using grant money from FEMA or wherever,
Something
because
that's
so it's
not-
not from taxpayers in Madison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want to exclude taxpayers, otherwise they'll just get crushed. Could be an argument. we don't need that. Oh, number 5 of that one? I did my homework.
That was 5.
That was 4.
I'm on
That
6.
was number 4. Okay, number five of policy E, number 5, amend zoning regulations to encourage resilience through increased standards. In the resilience plan is actually some language that recommends not loosening standards, but allowing deviations from standards, specifically height restrictions and width relative to property on narrow properties. So you can build a more resilient home. So I just want to make sure we're not going to paint ourselves into a corner by saying we're making it tighter, or we just need to make it better. Improve
So-
standards.
Where, I'm sorry, where is this?
So number
Number 5.
5, amend zoning regulations to encourage resilience through increased
Instead of
standards.
increase- Instead of increased, I think improved would be better, because sometimes we'll have to loosen the standards to allow a house that's deviates from the zoning regs, so it is more resilient.
Yes, and we
And I don't know the details.
Oh, sure.
we have an existing regulation that allows taking a height
Okay,
or
Yeah, exactly.
raising
So it's-
nonconformities
good.
for
Okay,
conformance, so.
okay, and there was just one on policy B, no, policy F number 4. Just a question how we do that.
Support through the Economic Development Commission, staff,
Just
Chamber of
Almost
Commerce.
a note for future discussion, how we go about doing that.
Yeah, I think, well, I think what we mean by that is be an active part, and this will get ironed out a little bit in the implementation
Yeah.
table about who exactly should be involved, but I think it's being an active participant in the conversation and the outreach with EDC, with Chamber, to be a part of the conversation.
Okay, Thank you, that's all I got.
John Morgan, anything else before you're good?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
So Aaron, I will plan, we'll touch base, but I'll plan to get you, we'll get like a single document in the next couple of weeks so that the commissioners can review for a couple of weeks before we have the March meeting at which, well, you may set the public hearing date.
Okay.
Before he goes, could you do
Yes,
something for me?
now it-
What's that?
Before he leaves, could he put up policy D from the beginning? If we're gonna segue into my talk, I just want to see what you have written already.
Policy D, that's the same as, improve the sustainability of the community's natural resources, public and private.
Yeah,
Just so the audience can see it.
Yeah, give me a second. I closed the document. I'll bring it back up.
Are you looking specifically for that number 4 about trees?
I want to see the whole thing.
Policy-
Just want to see
policy-
where it's at.
Policy D,
Let's make changes.
Yeah, when is the point when we as the public share comments?
There will be so what's happening now is the commission is working through their draft language with the consultant. And there's an opportunity for public to make comment after that's.
You mean
So
right now?
if
This
the
is not a-
commission
this
is
is not a-
finished,
That's
Fran?
two questions.
So
technically not right now. I want to hear what you have to say, but we're not opening it up for everyone in Madison to tell us what's wrong with the document. Because we're not done drafting it, so we still have some work to do. There's a couple, if you look through this, there are a couple of actions which are duplicative, they need to meld those together. Some of the wording is specific enough, so we don't want to give you a document that you're gonna go back and tell us how poorly written.
No,
Well-
no, that's not the intention, but I was under the impression it was open to the public.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
you can share your thought, yes.
yes, please
Okay.
do, yes. Yeah.
And Peggy had invited and asked if Fran can show his slideshow.
Yeah.
So the commission
I just
agreed
didn't
to
know,
allow him
like,
to do
the-
that.
If
And
it makes
then-
sense to comment now, well, that was up before we did that, but it's
No,
not.
it's up to you.
Well, I guess we could take a consensus. Is everyone looking to have comments today, or were some of you here just to listen?
I just had two quick questions.
Okay,
When
so
it's appropriate.
Not sure. I'm not-
John is not going to be staying on the call this whole time, so the question, if you want to read through policy D, we're happy to do
I had a
that
question
and
for
then
John
move
first.
on.
Can I
Yeah.
What
why don't we do
is
that?
your
It's-
question?
John, I just wanted to know if protection of farms made it, because that was something we talked about last time about adding to this, and I unfortunately don't have an updated draft, so I just wanted to see if farm protection made it. And I also wanted to see if the other thing we discussed last time was protection of scenic resources, view sheds, viewscapes. That was actually recommended in the POCD from 2013 and was missing, so I can't see if you've added it in there or not. I just wanted to see if it was.
I just doing a quick search. I don't see reference to agriculture, farm, or viewscapes in this draft.
And I thought we agreed last time that that was a good idea.
The commission, what the rest of the members here can take your comments into consideration and see if they'll be adding additional language.
So we have just so you know, we have two sections in the policy. There's two places where so in general, what we're trying to do is come up with a way to protect the natural resources within Madison and enhance what we have. So to do two things. One is just to protect it, but also then to create it as a focal point for bringing people to Madison to visit. So they can come downtown, they shop, they can go hiking. What's number 44% of Madison is green. It's trees and walking paths. We've got the enhanced connections to nature in Madison, which is not so much about protecting Madison, but connecting the people to nature. How do we get everyone to understand that Madison is 44% not residential, it's 44% open space and green. So with that section, and we also have the section on preserving Madison's historic and cultural landmarks, not specific to nature, but the old homes. It could be viewscapes, something that has significance in the history or culture of the town. And then improve the sustainability of our community's natural resources. So that would be somewhere in there. We have to talk about whether farms and agriculture should be called that specifically. And we should talk with the.
Okay, I thought
Well,
I don't want to go through it all again, but I thought we agreed on that, but it's your decision. I just pointed out, and I think, John, you and I discussed this, I believe the guidelines from the state of Connecticut on POCDs require a mention of protection of farmland. Remember, we talked about that in Middletown?
Yeah,
It's required.
in Hartford, yeah, but what I would need to do, I want to go back and look at the discussion. The discussion in the body of the document about natural environment and built environment. I believe there is some language about scenic roads, viewscapes, agriculture in there. But yeah, I mean, the state statute does require consideration of those things, and you know that doesn't mean it needs to make it into the final draft. It has been considered.
And so what I like to say is I appreciate everyone's input, but our challenge is to balance the input of everybody. And so while farm and agriculture is great, we have to look to see where it fits and if it does fit.
It has, well, okay. The reason, hang on, one reason it has to fit is because the town strategic plan, which is approved, recommends protection of farmland. And the POCD has to be in compliance and coherent with the strategic plan.
They have
So,
to be, yes, they have to be coherent. They have to work together. That is true.
so the fact that it's not in there, if you're still considering it, that, of course, that's fine. I just want to be sure it's still being considered and that it's not left out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's fair.
And the other point on scenic resources, it's actually recommended in the 2013 POCD to protect scenic resources specifically, so how can it not be in this POCD?
The commission went through all of the action items from the 2013 POCD, considered them, and then took additional public.
You really don't want protection
Feedback
of
to
scenic
put.
resources? It was in 2013 and it's not important now?
So can you define scenic resources? I mean, not honest, I'm just asking, what do
Well,
you mean by
I
that?
think, well, you asked that, and Carol Snow mentioned it at the last meeting. She said it's viewscapes,
Right.
view sheds, scenic
What's-
resources.
I don't-
She
I don't-
answered
no, I
the
don't know.
question. I can't remember. You
I
asked
don't
her,
know
and
what
she
I
answered it.
don't know what a view shed is. I'm not being,
Okay.
I'm not being a jerk.
I
I honestly
understand.
don't know what that
A
word means.
watershed is an
Okay.
area
Yeah,
that,
yeah, I get that.
yeah, and a view shed is something you can see from here to here, not like an owl,
Okay.
but from left to right.
Yeah, and so we
What
can understand, how does that differ from a viewscape? I'm,
I don't know.
okay.
We'll leave it to our town planner to
All right,
decide.
I'll look it up.
But
Well, and
because it
some
was
of that-
highlighted so much, and it was so important in all the visioning sessions, I think it, and it is in the strategic plan, I think it's gotta be in there. Again, if you're just still considering it, that's fine. I just wanted to be sure it's in there. It's not in there, as long as you're still considering it, it's up to you.
I guess the actions and the specific implementation actions in the POCD do not have to be the same as what is in
The
the
general
strategic
policies have to be.
plan.
The general
The
policies have to
policies
be the same.
Are consistent with the
They're not, well, okay,
strategic
if
plan.
scenic resources are in there, then they're consistent.
Well,
If
I
farm
think-
protection's in here, then they're consistent.
Jim,
Oh,
these
if I might-
meetings are not meant to be an argument
No, no,
of,
Let
with
John-
the
go ahead,
commission.
John.
Part of, you look at, we have a language here regarding waterfront plans, we have scenic road designations, and throughout the text of the document, there are references to all of these. So in the policies, some of these may be implicit in the language of, and not specific spelled out
Haven't I-
action items.
Okay.
So
So- The next step is to take the document we just went through and embed it in the overall POCD. Our goal is to do what you said. We didn't use those words. I tend to try to come up with broader terminology and not say view shed because that means this. as opposed to just protect everything that's beautiful. I'd rather go with terminology like that, and then within the P O C D, we can get more specific. So my request would be when the revised version is up on the website, or Karen can send it to you, look at each of the policies and see if it covers what you're looking for. Farm and agriculture is not in there. We know that. John's gonna look to see where it would fit, and then we'll talk to them. If it's in the strategic plan, we'll make sure that we're aligned. But if you could look at it and see if what we have meets that need without getting hung up on the specific words. View shed may not be that important to say as opposed to some other. But if we're trying to do that, I just don't know the terminology.
Yeah,
So-
if I might.
I'd like to think through it. All right.
Comment, I think this matters because frankly, I don't know what parts of Madison are not part of a viewscape. I mean, what does that mean? I really don't know. I'm just being a wise ass.
Right, so I think if we.
We should look it up and if I
Make
can
sure the
find out what the
phrasing
meaning
is such that we're protecting what
Right.
needs to be protected and what's important. And it's like the parking spaces. I don't want to say make parking spaces. I want to say let people walk around town. That gives you different ways of doing it. Protecting a view state may limit us as opposed to protect other things. So,
That's the way it was worded in the P O C D over 10 years ago, and I can't believe scenic resources have become less important. since
Second
then.
page has the task associated with those.
Right, I think we went through the
Yeah, we can look through it
2013
and find out if
POCD,
it's
there's like
missing.
150 action
Yeah.
items.
The intent is to have that. The intent is to have exactly that in here. We just probably use different words and maybe we missed something specific. Right. Yes, sir.
So just to follow up on that, it sounds like logical, then after you put all that together, that would be sort of either manual or some way of cross-referencing
It's John's job. He's gonna
the old
cross-reference.
2013 actions against, oh, here it is, it's covered here in the 2024.
I don't,
It doesn't mean that everything is carried from the 2013 plan to
Yeah.
now.
Well, then in the 2013, you sort of list a star, these are going to be carried and these are not, just so that we can make sure we didn't miss something.
I'm not sure the commission is going to do that.
we had an
We've
intention.
done it. We've done it.
No, I don't think we had the intention to look at the 2013 and say, did we or did we not carry it forward to the new plan? We're trying to create a new plan from the start.
But
Because
to his point, if something's left out, it should be discussed, like the 2013 P O C D recommends limiting clear cutting. And now, I guess we're gonna get to that, so no need to comment, but if something's not carried over, we should know
It's a shame.
and discuss it. Well, maybe there's no point, because
Mhm.
times change, but
Mhm.
it seems like scenic resources and preventing clear cutting and farm protection have only become more important since 2013,
Mhm.
not less important,
I agree.
but
We're saying the same thing. We're just speaking two different languages, I think.
and just the words matter.
Yes.
If it's in a,
Yes,
yeah,
they
if it's
do.
in a policy or if it's buried down, it's the words,
Yeah.
rightly or wrongly, the people will point to every single word. And they're up here on an application.
Yeah, I was surprised at the level of focus on the conservation part of the P O C D from this commission. Most of us, actually all of us, pretty much are new. But there's a very strong focus on conservation part. And that's what we're trying to get through. I don't know if anyone looked at, I did not look at the 2013 and said, this is where we start. I just said, we're gonna start new from where we are, gathered input. The commission before us gathered input to this and built upon that. So it's not to say anything that 2013 is not important. It's
Well,
not necessarily a continuation of,
And then
I
in
think
that
when
case,
am I correct?
in that
excuse
case,
me, when you joined the commission, you came in midstream and the
Yeah.
commission had already done that.
They've done that,
We
okay,
went
all right.
through and had these conversations about the 2013
Okay.
plan and all of those
right.
action items.
Okay,
And
and
went through
if
the
you don't go
relevance
back to
of that.
2013, you can go back to the more current visioning sessions which were all about protecting character, scenery, farms, historic, cultural, open space,
And we're trying to-
forests.
Hopefully we captured all that. So. if we
The
did it,
commission-
please let us know. Do you think we did it? Did you read the
Well-
policies?
Yes,
So,
I don't know.
I mean,
See what
honestly,
happens
if you
in
think
the
we
end.
missed something, yeah, you gotta tell us.
Well, okay, so we will, yep, we will allow for public comment, and then that is the whole point of the public comment period prior to the public hearing as well, is to, you capture the information that you think best represents the feedback you receive from both the public outreach for here in your meetings, and then also what you leveraged from the process of the strategic plan, because that was part of your process as well. And then allow for public feedback. Yes. Does anyone have a question on this? Can we read through policy D here then? And we'll let
I just
John.
don't, it's had everything that was there before, so I'm good.
Okay. Thank you for screen sharing, John.
Thanks, John.
Okay, is that about it?
That's it.
I
Okay.
just want to hear about trees.
You
Maybe
stay
you
for the-
should.
Okay. I love hearing about trees, but I'm nursing a cold right now, so I'm gonna bail.
Okay, thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
John.
Thank you, John.
Be in touch.
Share.
So for you to screen share, I need to promote you to a panelist here, Fran, so you can share. And I know your presentation is focused on opportunities as far as tree protection, but I would just remind everybody, I know all of you were in attendance at a meeting with Peggy and some other staff and myself yesterday. The purpose of this meeting is for the plan of conservation and development and for planning, not to speak of specific applications, the review process involved in those specific applications, or requests for moratoriums. Those can be discussed at another time. That's not under the plan of conservation and development
What is
agenda
the-
this evening.
Is there a known date where the POCD will be, where that draft becomes not a draft? We can review your
There is
version.
currently a working draft. The most recent working draft from December is available on the town's website under the planning, the POCD page. And it talks about the various elements to the plan, the process, the timeline, and there is a working draft as well as a link to all of the YouTube videos for
I
the
guess I'm asking,
meeting.
at what point does it become not a draft? So that
Well, that was what we had just talked
That's what
about.
he's doing now.
you made a point to say that public comment won't be done until you're done drafting, and then we can review the version that doesn't have, where you clean up what you want to clean
It's
up.
fine.
So I'm wondering where that point is.
A final draft, or a formal
Yeah.
draft
I mean, yes, this is always a draft.
would be
so
the
it's done.
commission, that was the goal, is to have that for March. A cleaned up, instead of the working draft, right, a formal draft of the POCD for March. And at that point, if the commission decides to move forward and schedule a public hearing, there are no changes made to that plan in that 65-day window ahead of the hearing. So
5 days notice before the
the
public
hearing,
Okay.
correct. So at this point, and that's all governed by the state statute as far as the process and the referrals. So this opportunity today is a good opportunity for you to add your feedback so that the commission may consider that in between now and the release of that.
So
So,
what's your point? In about 2 weeks, the phrasing that exists now that we talked about, that'll be cleaned up a little more, will be embedded in the actual working draft. That will be on the website. It's all the drafts on the website. The one that's on it now is from December,
yes.
right? So
Yeah.
it's. Wait for this one. It changed a lot.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
getting.
so the next time you see, so in a couple of weeks, the updated version should be reflective of this. That it's not the final draft, but it's something to look at as a little more meaningful as far as what we're trying to.
And actually, if you link on the January 18th page, I think, has this draft policies and merged policies and strategies as well. And if you're welcome to email, I'm happy to email you a copy of
Was it
that
in
Word,
this-
that Word document.
Was it in this meeting? Right, too?
Well, I emailed this most recent comments from John to the commission directly. But we had a draft that was discussed at the
Oh,
last
the five,
meeting.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that was attached to the agenda. And also, are you Anya?
Yes.
Anya, I just wanted to also let you know that a copy of your letter has made it to the commission as well. So,
the other, were there other ones? I was gonna ask what that process, the public commenting process is.
well, so the commission's been accepting public comments for the last 15 months on the process. So you're welcome to put them in a letter or just have a
Right,
conversation
but that's
tonight.
my question. So, like, the email I sent to you, was that shared?
Nope, unless you want, I'm happy to forward that if you'd like that
That,
shared.
yes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm here tonight, but that was the intention. I mean,
Sure.
you said I could either email it to you or come here.
Yes, I
Um,
wasn't clear that you wanted me to forward that exact language. I thought that was an email to me, but I'm happy to do that.
Does that answer your question about the processes?
Well, I mean, I guess that it's an example, right? Like if the public is reviewing it on the website and has comments. And they, where do those?
To me.
comments go?
And I'll forward them as the commission staff. And I can forward them
If
to the
requested.
commission.
If requested.
So it has to be.
What's that?
You don't do automatic, only requested you forward it.
If you, yes, if you would like to share comments with the commission, just email me and say, can you please forward this to the commission as POCD comments?
Which I didn't even request, but I'm glad it was shared, and I think your intention was for it to be shared as well,
Well,
so.
your
just-
letter was addressed to the P and Z committee, so.
Yeah, so just make sure if you want us all to see it, just make it clear that it's not just a letter to Aaron, you're asking a question that you want to be shared. Because once you share it, then it's part of the public record, it goes on file.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's, everyone can read it.
Probably most people don't know that though, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
There are also, on the POCD webpage, there are links to questionnaires, what worked over the last 10 years, what do you see the biggest concerns for both the natural and built environment? So those forms are online as well as my email address with instructions on how to get in touch with the commission, and then also their first meeting of the month, this planning meeting. So all of that is there
Do
for
all
you.
the things then.
Yeah, so that's a good,
Email show up, we'll pursue all the avenues.
Yeah.
right, well, I mean, as long as you get your information to the
Yeah.
commission, yeah.
Okay.
Just show them the website.
Yes. You ready? Sure,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I'll introduce myself, but first, a pop quiz. Where's that located? In Madison. Name the street.
That's
You're planning and zoning, you should know.
I've been here 6 years.
That's where the
Grace Silver.
sugar shop is, isn't
Man,
it?
that's here from the board.
Oh, you don't know.
Summer Hill?
Close, it's in North Madison. It's on my road, near my road. It is Race Hill Road, north.
I was gonna say Race Hill.
North. Every February, those things pop out. And it's St. Peter, I think Peter collects all that stuff from his friends, neighbors. And unfortunately, right at the corner on Route 80, this huge tree fell on, one of the huge maples fell on another maple, not those two, on another two, and they were lying all over the place. And they're still there. Huge trees knocked down, beautiful trees. They were old though, they were gonna come down eventually. So anyway, I'm Fran Brady, good evening. I live at 108 Genesee Lane in North Madison. I'm a retired chemist. I don't know why I keep saying that.
I
Need
was
something.
I felt I'm retired engineers.
I'm a retired adhesive chemist. So glue actually is made with pine sap. So I have a little connection with trees that way. I'm also the former member and chairman of the Conservation Commission from 2018 to 2019 when Heather needed a break. Needed a much needed break. I am also the currently a member of the Solid Waste Disposal Committee. Together with my partner, Bob Kupta, former tree warden, we are co-founders of a nonprofit local group called Mad for Trees. We're trying to give away, first we were going to give away 200 trees. Now we're going to go for 2,000 trees in time for our 200th anniversary of our incorporation, or our exit from Guilford. I'm here at the suggestion of the first select woman Lyons, after a meeting we had here yesterday with the tree warden, the town planner, the director of Beach and Recs, Al Goldberg, and at least 30 concerned citizens were here yesterday to talk about this topic. This topic is about Madison trees, and it's about the lack of a tree ordinance. And also some possible solutions or possible aids and support that should be incorporated into the plan of development 2024. The town has been under siege for at least 5 years with tree issues. And I am here tonight to propose a more proactive approach to how we can manage this increasingly grave issue. We go. So real quick, we'll give you a background about what the state of life is today in Madison. As I mentioned, there's been at least 5 years, a lot more than 5 years of havoc, sheer havoc on trees. A lot of it has to do with invasive species like gypsy moths, emerald ash borer. Guess what? Spotted lanternfly is coming up from Greenwich. It's going to be here. It's already here. It's been spotted, I think, at Hammonasset. And of course, our favorite utility company, Eversource, has created a lot of issues for us. River Road first, then the massive tree cutting. Oh my God, massive! It's massive. Right? And then Railroad Avenue had a little issues, and we were here also yesterday talking about 251 Boston Post Road, the famous future Madison Oyster House. I'm not going to go into details about this, but that's just a quick Google Street View, drone view, before and today's view. And the problem is, it's right there in your face. Everyone drives by it, and it just proved to be the straw that broke the camel's back. Why everyone got so upset. One of the reasons. But I imagine a lot of people talk about this all the time. Again, not a lot of detail, but I did a Control F on municipal codes. And I came up with the word tree 8 times. Well, it feels light, a little bit light. And it showed up in 6 different ordinances. And most of them are dealt with rockland, very specific, or street, how you deal with planting trees on the street. I'm sure there's more detail. I didn't go into every single line, but I want to show you, I did some homework in this. Here we go. Some more homework. If you go back and look at all those documents that all these great people have, all these great committees have generated over the years, I just went back to 2010. Bob Kupta did a survey. He was asked by the Board of Selectmen to do a survey of Boston Post Road trees. There were hundreds. These were trees that were 4-inch caliber or greater, within 50 feet, I think, of the road. Hundreds. He's got the map if you want it. And some of them unfortunately came down with the Oyster House. But all I want to say is that group put forward back then the recommendation of having a tree ordinance and a tree commission to help manage that wonderful resource. That is unbelievable. When I moved here in 2010 and I went to the realtor, literally, she had me drive up from Boston Post Road from Guilford. Fran, take this road and go to my office. Of course I was impressed. I could not believe what I was driving through, those huge humongous streets. She did a good job. 2013, you know about this, you're the authors. There's one page that talked specifically about scenic views and the value of trees and Mother Nature here in Madison. You guys are working on policy D. Thank you. I'm anxious to see the actions that come out of that. And the strategic plan obviously also mentions it as well. I'm not gonna go through all that, you know, what's in all that stuff. Now, the problem is this, current resources. Your tree warden has multiple roles under Beach and Rec. He's in charge of the guys like mow the lawn in Battle Park. He's got to take care of so many things. The guy needs a raise. Please give him a raise. The guy's doing a super job and he's doing 100 different things. You used to have, when I was on it in 2018 and 2019, the Conservation Commission providing feedback to planning and zoning applications, specifically on landscape issues, on trees that were being removed, and recommendations on how to do it nicer for Mother Nature, and making sure you use natives. So we were the trusted advisor. We were the experts. That paragraph is crossed out, and that paragraph, and I left the Conservation Commission because I was told in 2019 that I will no longer do not expect applications for planning and zoning anymore. You might get one, but guess what? Don't expect it. We were regularly getting them and they stopped it. It was one of the most important things I felt I was doing as a member of the Conservation Commission. And I was told by the previous town planner, no, we can cover it. We got inland wetlands. We got guys on our team. We can do it. We don't need you. You should be focusing on the natural resource inventory. Great. Thank you. Cross it out. Sorry, I get emotional about that one topic. I won't comment. Oh, speaking of upset, the other resource we have here is a involved public. We have people that are concerned. I wish they were a little bit more involved and actually volunteered more for our commissions and committees. It's a challenge. I wish they do. We all have jobs. We all have to work. No, you know, it's hard. But there were a lot of upset residents regarding trees. Map for trees is a little Band-Aid to try to help. We put out 363 trees, but they're those little guys, right? It's going to take a long time to match that tree on Boston Post Road over there. So I'm not the answer. We need rules. We need support. We need people proactively looking at trees, not two little girls planting a sapling somewhere. Since Monday, we've been holding a change.org petition. And that was yesterday. We had 150s. Can someone look it up? As of this moment, we have 200 and what? 209. 212. We have to refresh. So this is an issue. I've never had a petition signed that quickly with that number of people. I did a petition for the ban the bag ordinance. It took me 2 months to get 400. Oh, sorry. I'm almost done. How are other towns managing? There's good news here. There's big cities, of course, that have, well, first of all, this is a snapshot of my Excel spreadsheet where I have about 25 different towns, 90% of them in Connecticut. I also have some other New York towns I put in there just to understand what they do around trees. Are they a tree city? Do they have a tree ordinance? Do they have a committee to watch after it? And then, you know, I learned that you can't just say, oh, just because Guilford has it, we should have it. No, I wanted to look at the demographics and I wanted to see if small towns and large cities, what were they doing? How were geographically large places doing the same thing as small things? Guess what? They are. Those are large towns. These are the small towns. Clinton and Essex. Essex puts us to shame what they do with trees. Guilford, they've been doing it for 20 years. I think. Something around there. Durham is a farm community. They don't like trees. It gets in the middle of the tractors, right? So they don't have a committee there. But I put them on the table so you can see. They're our neighbors. These are basically our neighbors. That's it. I'll leave you, I wanted to leave you this in person, just so you had that. But what I have here are examples of just the clauses, the headings of each clause that you would expect in a tree ordinance. Hartford turns out to be the best. But Guilford has a thorough one. Even Arbor Day has a tutorial on how to do this. And I'll explain why that's important later. I'm sharing with you right here two examples of best practice in Hartford. They have a tree removal clause that talks about, of course, tree wardens generally focus on town property. This goes beyond that. This goes into big trees on private property. These numbers can be discussed and, we can negotiate whatever is important, but this is to show you that the city of Hartford respects trees no matter where they are, and I think we should as well. We also have a policy, and this is what was one of, I think, First Selectwoman Lyons' favorite area, was a tree replacement policy. When you grant a developer the right to tear down 25 trees, sometimes you ask them to plant new ones, to replace them. I'd like to challenge you and ask, do what Hartford does. They do it inch for inch. Not 3 trees for 1 tree, because they tend to be little trees, right? And you got to get that CO2 equivalent. They do inch for inch. You take a 25-inch caliber tree. I want a 24-inch caliber tree. I want 12 2-inch trees, whatever. It's inch for inch. I love it. And if you can't put it on that site, which most times you can't, but you're developing it, we will have a place for it somewhere. Let's put them in Barrett Park. Just theoretically, hypothetically, we'll put them somewhere. Give them to me, and I'll give them away to residents. Get the developer to donate to Mapper Trees, or to the Tree Commission. I'm going to promote. Essex does that. They do that. They bring the money that way. It's a nice public-private collaboration. Okay, moving on. So recommendations. This is it. Conservation Commission, please put them back in the loop. I'd love you to reinstate it. This is the mission on the website. They may be approached by you. They may. Oh, I went too fast, sorry. This should be a qualified shall, in my opinion. Or whatever way you want to wordsmith it. But at least let them, if it's a big project, if it's above 6 trees, it's above 20 trees, if you want to make it 100 trees, call them in. They're just, they can help. This is important too. Every one of those towns that I talked to you about have a tree commission. It's a group of 5 residents, 6 residents, 7 residents. Hopefully they have some background and knowledge, or they love the topic and they want to get involved and they'll help solve problems. It's not just about enforcing rules or whatever. It's about helping the community understand about trees. It's understand about invasive species, understand about the wildlife that's impacted. They'll help promote it and do what's best for our town. Help maintain the value of the town with that help. Identify notable trees, big trees. Have the tree warden, have inland wetland also participate on the once in a while to help be that expert. This is the ordinance itself. I'd like to make sure it's integrated. You can like do the limits that you want. Not if 1 tree's taken down, that's obviously too much of a hassle. Give me a number, 6, 10, whatever's appropriate. Have a removal process, a replacement process, penalties, and an appeal process so that we're fair. It's not rocket science. It's been done. And all of it should be captured, hopefully, in your plan of conservation development. So here's the last slide. We are here. We, Mapper Trees, Fran Brady, a lot of people sitting here, volunteers when I ask. I know a lot of people. We are here to help. It's not all on our shoulder, on the town's shoulders. We can lead the effort to write the ordinance. I could do it in a month if you want, but you won't like what I write. It's going to be too tough. Or we can talk about it. We can drum up support and get the volunteers for the tree advisory. You know what? We have left so many things on the table over the years, so many things that we said we were gonna do that never got done. You do this tree advisory and you'll get things done. You'll get things like the natural resource inventory completed. You'll get at least the part about trees completed. You'll get educational goals as part of the POD, the POCD that you mentioned. Sustainable CT. I am so tired of hearing Gilbert tell me that there's gold or bronze or silver, and we're nothing. I want it. I've given 13, 14 different points to get points for that honor, and that's an honor. I know our real estate people would love to be able to brag that we're a sustainable gold and maintain that desirable character. All right, last thing, and please, it's not just about what I'm saying. This is about what 99% of the world scientists are saying, right? Your job is going to get harder. It's going to get worse. More storms, more invasive pests. Trees are going to be, people are going to hate trees. Peggy said the number one complaint you get is about trees. The second one is power outages. They're related. We need rules. We need a team. We don't need a guy who is just looking after the mowers. We need a full-time person, and we got to take care of our valuable natural resources. And there's the last quiz is, where's that tree? Well, I tell you, it's on Green Hill Road, right by the school. Beautiful trees in our community. Thank you.
The quick question, the advisory tree, was that advisory tree committee or commission? It was blocked by the,
Oh, sorry?
were you recommending a committee or a commission for the advisory tree?
Yeah, I'm not up on that. Some people call it advisory board, but that sounds too big.
Yeah.
The smaller one is committee. I would say committee.
I think you can tuck it under the conservation commission.
Right, it's committee.
All right, thank you.
What's up there? I thought I stopped sharing.
Yep, I'll move you to an attendee and then your head will disappear over there.
Thank you. That was my best smile.
Takes getting used to having the face. I have a question. So the petition doesn't include language for an ordinance. It does not include language for an ordinance on the petition.
It has specific requests. But it's not written to be
Okay,
language that's
yeah,
adopted into the ordinance, yeah.
You asked that question because, are you talking about, is there a town requirement for the ordinance to have a certain number of signed petitions?
No.
Okay.
It's the, you're going into the idea there's a need for an ordinance for this, for managing the tree. I'm just curious if it had already been drafted in some form as part of the.
I've drafted some of the chapter or some of the sections.
Yeah, okay.
It's in my computer, but no one's seen it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, a friend offered his help to Peggy yesterday, in the room, and I mean, if you just Google the ordinances of different towns, I mean, they're all there. It's just a matter of, what we agreed we want ours to be.
Aaron, do you know what the process is for establishing an ordinance?
Board of Selectmen.
It's a board of select.
Yeah.
I have
Public hearing.
All right, okay.
I've been asked to present at the February
Okay,
13th,
good.
8:00 in the morning presentation.
Does anyone have any insight into why there isn't one for medicine? Like how this has been overlooked for so long?
That's a question probably for the board.
So we've been here longer than waiting. No, it is surprising. Every place I've lived, we've always had something.
Yeah.
It's quite a big tree now. Somebody can come and say you're okay.
I like the presentation. How and why did the utility clear cutting happen?
how and why
Yeah.
it started happening.
It was through their right of way, their
It's
easement.
part of their reliability, commitment to the state. And we have, yeah, so it's mainly the transmission lines.
Right.
And the struggle or the conflict was interpreting the 100 feet or the rules they were setting. It seemed like it was like moving targets at one point. And they needed to explain. And at one point they were like, no, I'm getting River Road now mixed up. They were also offering to replant. If they had to take down someone's tree, they were going to provide suggestions and help to put a smaller tree on the property.
My understanding is that they're willing to do that with certain species within the transmission line around certain people's properties.
Yeah,
That were
that's right. They had a whole
affected.
list, I think, of,
That
medium-sized
was a
trees.
result of the meetings that the town had.
all right, they wouldn't, yeah, without that meeting, we may not have gotten anything.
But essentially, they're outside of any local jurisdiction. And so that's where residents in the town feel that their hands were tied behind their backs in a sense for that.
And I've been bothered, but the Oyster House, were those 2 oak trees? Which trees did they cut down?
Well, there was a giant,
They left.
Everything but two.
Everything but, okay.
giant elm tree, which is unique because it was in good health and not susceptible to Dutch elm, so that's unusual. And then I just measured today a 44-inch hickory taken down in the state easement. That's a whole nother discussion we don't have to get into.
I remember that in the presentation, they pointed out that there was a state easement there.
Yeah.
It's a state right of way.
Regarding that.
The property line starts at the stone wall.
But for the state to, anybody to cut down in the DOT's easement, they need a permit from DOT.
Right.
And the language says any tree they're cutting down over 18 inches, and these were, the lead official in the town has to be notified.
Okay.
So Peggy didn't mention she was notified, and I haven't, apparently there's no permit in the file, but we don't need to get into that now.
And so Amy Thomas is the, who also will forward a comments, your written comments, but did you want to say anything in addition to Fran? I think just to,
Yeah.
we do have
Yeah, thanks.
other
I mean,
items on as
so
well, so.
I did email this and, and like I said in my email, it's my first read of a plan of conservation and development, and this is all, the commissions and how local town government runs, is all new to me, so it's kind of elementary, but important because I am one of many concerned citizens. It's a fraction of, there are a lot of people who are becoming quite frustrated and alarmed by different developments. I think it's a great opportunity that this plan of conservation development is being written. And, maybe what happened at the Oyster House can be, catalyst for, like, that's the last time we see something like that. That would be great. So I think everything that Fran presented is something we've been discussing for weeks. And yes, like, why isn't there a tree ordinance, and let's get it going, and what should it say, and what are the best practices? And importantly, for tonight's discussion, that is represented in the plan of conservation and development. Because when I did read it and I was like, wow, okay, Madison is all about sustainability and natural resources and open spaces, and that's great. I just felt it was kind of thin on what that actually means, and specifically when it comes to trees. And there was the one that I could find, one mention of trees. And so I would just really like to see, and again, more than happy to share specific thoughts, but some of the policies we propose in an ordinance, that they're represented in the plan of conservation and development. So there's more specific references about what does it mean that we're a community that, values sustainability, natural resources. That means we have a proactive stance on trees. We want to preserve them. We don't want them removed. And it's, I live near the Oyster House, and the whole neighborhood's very excited that a restaurant was actually approved. And then now everyone's just like, oh my God, like what happened? What did they do? So,
I want to mention, I think it may have been you, someone went to the property and counted the number of stumps, and it was something like 50 trees have been removed since you haven't seen it. So it's shocking and apocalyptic. It looks like a horror film. And I realize it won't always be so ugly, but we can't get those trees back.
The trees back. And I think the important thing is in terms of conservation and climate, these are mature trees that's supposed to carbon at such a faster rate. Like I know the restaurant's gonna be beautiful and they're doing their landscaping and that's great. But
A
it's
shrub is not.
like
mature.
parking lot landscaping does not make up for those mature trees.
Exactly.
So I will follow up with more written comments, understanding the process a little bit more, but yes, please do share. I just suggested the 2 sections where I thought, some of these comments might be applicable. We're neighbors. We've, witnessed, other tree devastation on private residences. And we just talk about, everyone lives here because it's beautiful and because there are these mature trees and there is all this beautiful natural life, and we're just slowly chipping it away. Like you have someone who builds a house and they take out 6 or 20 trees on their property, and it just keeps happening, and it's affecting everything from wildlife to flooding, to ultimately the property values. We're lucky that they've been, I don't know, it's debatable. We're lucky the property values have been going up. They're going to come down if like we just aren't careful about how we manage natural resources.
I think, I've been thinking about your question about how do you get an ordinance? Please correct me if I'm wrong, but it starts with the first presentation at the Board of Selectmen. They sort of give the nod. I will then go through the work of drafting it, and then I normally work with the town lawyer. The lawyer looks at it, makes his changes, and then I think, this is where I don't know, I think it goes back to the board again, and then there has to be a town meeting where it's shown to the town. And the last time I did this, right then and there, the board voted on it.
It shouldn't be a public vote.
It's not a public vote, it was
The Board of Selectmen. It's after a public hearing.
Here. If everyone in town says no, can the Board of Selectmen still vote it in?
Yes,
They can make edits.
sure.
It's not a town,
Legislative.
an ordinance is not through a town meeting.
People, this is a town hall. Or government. Citizens are the legislative branch, which no one probably knows until you go sit on a committee trying to redefine it and you learn these things. And the selectmen are the executive branch unless there's not a quorum of citizens, and then they become the legislative branch. And that number of citizens has bumped up in the last review of the
Right, so
charter.
it's
Was it
filled out in the
150?
charter.
850 people.
I can't recall.
Used to
On
be
that
75.
commission, and I think the selectmen can pass ordinances, but they can be overridden
Okay.
by the town meeting. The town meeting has the ultimate authority,
Got it, okay.
but ordinances can be enacted without the involvement of the town committee, of the town meeting.
You and I both a little fuzzy on that final approval part. I'm gonna learn. I'm like, well,
But petition number can override.
yes, that's it, okay.
That's
The
filed with the
ultimate
town
power
clerk's
is The
office.
committee,
Okay.
but
There's one point I wonder if Rob and Fran, anybody else can discuss, if the tree ordinance applies on private property, as you mentioned, Rob, or just town property. And the former has great power, the latter, just town property, is kind of useless. So that's an issue that you're gonna have to grapple with. If you
Yeah.
wanna talk about it.
We
Hartford
of
is
course
private
recommend
property.
reformer.
Includes large trees on private property.
Bedford, New York, and Mount Kisco, I'm more familiar with private property, large trees, 18 inches. That I think would be an important thing to discuss.
There's things about native trees, legacy trees, there's all kinds of sort of additional clauses we can put in there. My approach is to, build it as strong as I can and then have a discussion, a logical discussions. So I'd like to know who that would be too, at some point. The tree committee could be part of that, but whatever town thinks.
Well, I think that's part of what your conversation with the Board of Selectmen would be.
Okay.
When you go before them. They're the policymakers in this realm for an ordinance.
I ask them for resource to help draft it or just,
If
I'll just put it to them.
they have an interest,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you need to get their feedback first.
Yeah.
Just on a personal level, we moved here 2 years ago from New York City to raise our young children, this is my husband Colin, to raise our young children, in nature and beauty. We bought a property we loved, and still mostly love. However, and Aaron knows this, but across the marsh from us, our whole house is oriented facing the marsh. A new property owner on 144 Neck Road cut down about approximately 20 mature trees right on the marsh. In total violation of, town code, and Aaron was extremely helpful in resolving that. He has to do remediation, but the remediation is not going to be as beautiful as those trees were. Instead, we're now looking at construction of what looks like a small, actually a medium-sized hotel, which for his two elderly parents. Not a modest home. And I'm questioning, why did we come to this town? Part of me has to wonder, I didn't come to this town to look at giant parking lots, or to look at, giant McMansions. Of course, development is going to happen again. We welcome development. I love oysters, love steak, cannot wait for this restaurant to be close to us. But it just seems like a reckless, demolition of trees and our natural beauty. That is just one of the hugest draws and feels to us as new residents here. So I want to do everything we can to implore the town council to do what we can to just really protect this now. And to protect our climate. Flooding is a clear and present danger. It's happening with increasing frequency. And I know everyone has a different interest here and people want to take down trees, but with more education, maybe they will be aware that trees help with flood mitigation. They can save their properties if they're more mindful of their trees. Some trees have to come down, of course, but not mindlessly, not recklessly.
Yeah, and I just have a personal, so I'm president of the association, Stone Lane Association, right off of the Boston Post Road. And we also had a destination, it's right across. And there's a developer, an investor, who bought the house to build a 3-story whatever that he could see Long Island Sound even better. All the more power to him. But he took down every tree there was. It balled it out, the whole side. You can see it on Route 1. It's right in your face. So the emotional part of this is there were great horned owls. He did it in the spring, so there were fawns running for their lives, had nowhere to go. We're in the middle of the street, so we're impacting. I'm very concerned about our habitat where they have nowhere to go. So the fact that, you want to see the sound a little bit better and you're taking the lives of animals, these are trees, but also animals live there. It's a huge problem for them. It's not fair.
The day our neighbor clear cut his property, I was out for a walk at 3 p.m. and a bobcat was just running around our neighborhood.
Right, we have to
This is
protect
not
our
normal.
animals
And
and
then it's-
they live here too. So this is very, very, it's not just about
We have
trees.
small children.
It's about who lives in the
Don't wanna-
trees too. Yeah, it's so sad what's happening
I understand.
for, selfish
Thank you.
reasons, I think. Very selfish reasons.
So it's like, how can we pump the brakes on that kind of clear cutting? And there's only one path to that. And it's through an ordinance. Thanks.
No, thank you.
I'm sorry to comment and thank you for the time, but I thank you
Thank you.
for your
Thank you so much.
Very, if you come back.
Thank you, Rob.
John, we meet twice a month. Every, sorry. I mean, you know,
Sorry.
we meet twice a month and every.
the first
Yeah.
one is.
Yeah.
The first Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
and the
beautiful.
third Thursday of every month?
That's awesome.
The third Thursday is typically the regulatory meeting where they're having zoning. The P O C D conversation is the first.
Thursday.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank
Look
you.
forward to your comments. Thank you.
What's that?
Look forward to your
Thanks.
comments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not the last, we'll talk. Bye.
Good. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Okay.
Next.
Next, yeah. We have no, we have to go through any of these? Or we just-
So the next one, Mr. Vice Chair, 24-03. This is a new receipt. You have one new receipt tonight, and it is a site plan review application in major downtown village district application. It's at the Vista Life Innovations on Bradley Road. At 105, 107, and 111 Bradley Road. It's that complex. And so because it's a major downtown village district application, we would recommend scheduling that public hearing for our next meeting, February 15th. So we would just need a motion for that.
So moved.
Second,
In favor? John, yes. John's a raise. Good, thank you. The pending applications are already all tabled until our next meeting on the 15th, as well as, given the fact that we have a good number of you not here this evening, I will just send some template language for that zoning regulation amendment to be consistent with the statutory change for our next meeting on the 15th. And then if you're agreeable, you can schedule a public hearing for March for that, so that we can start our referrals. And that's all I have.
Okay.
Jump it down to John.
sure. So, minutes for January 18th meeting. Members present were Snow, Tusa, Reinhardt, Ruben, Bugda, Peckinpah, O'Connor, Downs, and Morgan. Motion for approval? Second? John. John? All right, any comments, discussion, or edits? First of all, Andrew Rubin was not at the meeting. He was also listed in the minutes as being absent. So that's,
He wasn't here at the last meeting?
I don't think
No, he
so.
wasn't. He said he was out of town,
He's traveling.
traveling.
Oh.
In any event, he's listed as being both present and absent.
Yeah. which is-
I think he was absent.
Absent? Okay.
I think Jeff is here.
Jeff was here.
Jeff Downs was here,
That's
yes.
here. Yes, that's correct. All right, regarding the comments here from Jim Norton. Shall I read this, Erin?
I have it as email. I'm happy to just share it with Raquel. And
Okay,
you can amend, I guess he wants to correct that a particular line wasn't
Yeah.
his.
Let's just change that.
just a quick read of it. Looks correct to me, my recollection of his comments, which I saw Zoom. So
Okay,
send it to Raquel.
sure. Raquel, I'll email you those comments.
Anything else? Vote to approve. All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Any comments from you? Bob?
Just I think we need to look at the request for the tree ordinance at some level. incorporating some level of consideration of it in the language of the POCD.
I'm happy to go back and to John and
Yeah.
look at that letter D
Ask John if
language
he could
and
just
see.
put it in that, it said public and some other highway bylaws. If you could just include private land, some
Something of tree protection. And I-
protection with respect to private land is, I don't know, put it in, it's,
Well, something that tees up the process.
yeah,
Oh.
exactly. Don't say what we're gonna do, just say we need to.
For- Okay.
Do agree
Tree
that that
protection.
Section's thin.
Yeah.
On tree management or protection. Which is a significant issue.
We had talked about a tree replacement program for the town, I know early on, even, for the town.
Yeah.
Within right of what, rights, when trees are removed, things like that, to have, a plan in place for just maintenance and,
So what triggers the
Aging.
state's right of way tree removal?
well,
I mean, the trees are in the right of way,
in this particular case, it has to do with site.
with the driveway.
Yes,
Okay.
there's sightline requirements that the engineers work out with the DOT to show adequate. It's based off of the location, the curve, the speed of the road.
They closed one driveway, they didn't create a new driveway, did they?
The plan shows a widening of the front.
Just as a question, in the future, if we approve plans that have expanded new driveways on two major roads that cross over state,
They're all
Right.
subject to getting DOT encroachment permits.
right?
Sometimes the state will not issue permits until local approvals.
Right, but
have
can we
been
put some,
obtained.
can we do a conditional, to say if the state says, hey, you gotta cut a bunch of trees down, we get a chance to look at it again, and have to change them. In this situation,
Well, you don't have any jurisdiction over state property.
no, I know that, but if the state says cut it down, it specific to the winter. We approve the plan, the state then comes in, does their study, and says, well, for this plan, we need to cut down these trees. That's our rule, that's a state rule, we can't change that. We can change the plan.
They approve the driveway location as well.
No, we can change the driveway location in the plan.
It's not your discretion, it's up to the state where that,
If they came to us and said, we won't put a driveway here, we could say, no, you have to put it over here. We do
no,
not.
the state ultimately decides where driveways
Okay,
can go
all right, that was my
on
question.
state
All
road.
right, I get it now, all right.
Yeah.
Trying to understand how far reaching out. Something you can know.
Well, the applicant did mention that as a consideration, right? And the statement was something to the extent of, well, we hope the state will allow these trees to remain, but it's up to the state.
Right, so I can tell you that based on inspection of the property from the zoning officer and myself, the project is in compliance with the approved plan.
Now, I'm just looking for ways for us to best
So-
understand what the impact might be of approval, and if there's some way we can, if it's beyond what we want to be pulled back. I guess it's,
Yeah, I think it's a changing view of looking at trees, to be honest. I think at one point, thought was, if one thing Madison has is huge amounts of trees. We've got trees and trees and trees. But there obviously, with development and change and viewscapes, I'm just blabbing here.
yeah, yeah.
It matters, it really deeply matters, that people want to look out and see trees. So we thought that if you get approval for a restaurant, just come in and bulldoze the property.
I mean, maybe it's a way of us requesting for a project that has significant tree removal and inventory to say, okay, these trees are invasive species, these trees are within 5 or 10 years of their expected lifespan. So it's more of a public communication as opposed to just, yes, all the trees are cut down, but 20% were going to be dead in 5 years anyway. So many were just as a way to helping people understand why it happened.
Well, so a couple things, John, I know you were chiming in, I'll let,
Yeah, I guess my my reaction here is we are reacting to the, probably the worst it'll ever look.
Yeah.
You know, that, I went by it and I was shocked. But when I drove by the general's residence, when they were in the middle of building that, I was shocked.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think I'd like to see how it turns out before we, before we jump to any sort of major change in how we approach things, but yeah, we do need to understand when and how to
Yeah.
handle the trees, but let's not overreact right now.
Agreed.
There are a few different conversations, I think, happening. They're not apples to apples.
Eversource is Eversource.
Comparing Eversource tree removal within their easement areas, very different than local regulation on private property, either residential, single-family property, which was also discussed this evening, or commercial property. Yesterday at the meeting, there was conversation about scenic roads, which has different protections as well. So grouping them all together in the same you kind of have to break them out where your jurisdiction is, whether there's state roads, local roads. In the case of the Winter Club, the property has gone through the PDD master plan process. That site development plan was the exact same plan that went to the Inland Wetlands Agency, the same plan that went to the site plan review process and the coastal site plan review process that went to DEEP as well. And the site development plan very clearly shows the extent of the septic system on the property that extends to within 10 feet of Stonewall Lane. In order to accommodate installing and maintaining that septic system, those trees on private property have to come down.
Yeah.
So that's all within it, and the additional review that happened was through ACA, which is your design advisory committee, and they review landscaping as well. And so those are some existing provisions, through ACA. There are other tools and in a lot of these tree advisory boards have jurisdiction within town property. They don't typically get involved in private property, was my understanding. Oftentimes where you have a tree warden, they do share roles in small towns. And I know specifically Guilford was an example, and the tree warden in Guilford is the environmental planner, is the inland wetlands officer as well. And so you wear multiple hats. And the tree advisory committee typically got involved when there was removal within the town right of way. Sometimes when there are subdivisions and roads need to be widened, things of that nature. And then they have hearings regarding the significance of those trees. It's not uncommon to have some types of tree ordinance, and I think being proactive and having replacement programs is, appropriate. It's the single family and on some properties, inland wetlands, and oftentimes where we see violations of tree removal or some clearing, those are oftentimes within 100-foot upland review areas for inland wetlands. And those are sometimes the hardest ones to deal with because they're homeowners who just don't know and are, trying to do what they think is best for their property. And that was the case where Anya had spoken about that this evening. And that was handled as a corrective action with directives to replant that required wetland scientists involved to make recommendations. When you get into, some of these standards, and as Fran said, they're very restrictive, what he's proposing. We've tossed around ideas before in my previous experience in other towns of when you have a subdivision application identifying trees over a certain caliber or a certain DBH, and looking at that. So there are some tools. I think it's really a matter of how far in one direction or another the town is looking to go. And I think that's a great conversation for the board and for Fran to introduce. You know, yesterday's meeting was kind of evolved, you know, from being a couple of residents meeting with Peggy and I to a room of, you know, this room full of 30 people with a lot of suggestions. So now, you know, directing them to the appropriate venues. And I think at this point for the commission, having some broad, you know, language or expansion of, you know, the importance of trees or language in the POCD can help complement and you know, promote some type of regulation, whatever that may be in the future. I don't know how much the commission wants to come out and say on private versus public, or if you are looking to make that just a little more generic.
Well, if you can, I think we have John just capture that, so then we can have full commission discuss
Yeah.
it. It's only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
So, I mean,
right.
we need everyone to chime in.
And I have the slides, so I'm
Yeah,
happy to, you know, kind of
Yeah.
give a summary and let folks, of course, as
I
we're
mean, I
recording,
thought-
they could watch it.
This was great. I enjoyed this. This is what I hope we'll be able to do for each of the policies, get the individual stakeholders in the different committees and the private groups that are responsible for or to partake in this. Say, here's what we're saying. What do you think? What did we miss?
That's what I
The
am gonna
overreaching, the
do.
underreaching, and then have that exchange with.
Right, and so over this next month, now that we kind of have this language from John, I am going to send back out these draft policies and action items to the various people who came, just to make sure we're captured ahead of March. You know, not to circumvent the whole public process, but just as a deliberate, hey, look, here, does this reflect what you told us?
Yeah.
You know? John, you've got your.
Yeah, just quickly, Bob, thank you. You pulled us along here. You and Carol did a great job pulling us along on this. Getting this into some organized view. Aaron, the other thing, you had requested notes. I sent you some. Did you get the chance to see what I sent, and did I send the right thing?
They were pretty brief, but sure, yes.
Okay, that's all you're looking
comply
for.
with exactly what, yes.
That's all you're looking for. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. That was just
Yeah.
response of our FOI request.
I think this tree thing is interesting and important, but we've got to figure out a way of responding that doesn't make it difficult to do anything. If one wants to construct something that it leads to another 2-year
I mean,
delay.
you can do it.
I like the replacement.
Yeah.
Sure.
We just need some type of mention of the PLCD, I think, beyond that for trees, right? So that
Yeah.
program is included, but maybe just another sentence on it that does tee up the possibility of people going through the process for an appropriate ordinance, which is a whole nother debate.
Yes.
Not all.
Yeah, I think I'm mentioning the town, bigger than Madison, that is 1.5 acres. And if we wanted to cut a tree down that was gave in, we had all the time. The tree guy put a ribbon around it, and town would come up, put it next on it if you could, and take the ribbon off and cut it. Cool, it was simple as that. It could-
It works.
Was it an urban area? Suburban is nice. Yes, it-
So it was a fairly, we're on the edge of the rural. So it was surprising. Someone said no. We'll take it down to the, towards the house. Okay, fine. Sure. Makes sense. But it just, like it touched the brake a little bit.
Personally, I would agree with that one. I'm kind of a Lorax kind of guy.
Yeah.
So.
But
I'm
it's
all for
something as
protecting
simple as
trees.
that. It's just, big tree, just have someone look at it, make sure it makes sense.
Yes.
I don't know how you.
Well, it's a debate. But we should tee it up with the POCD so that they
I
can
agree.
make some progress. It's just indicate that we acknowledge it and care.
Well, John, thank you for all the work on this. I really appreciate it. Busy time.
John gives me comments. Yeah, John.
That's pretty good. That's great. Responsive. I love it.
Yes.
It's encouraging.
All right, how do I end this meeting?
Motion to adjourn?
There you
Motion to
go.
adjourn.
That's it, yeah.
John's got it.
John, you made that?
I second it. All in favor? Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.